growth after work in emergency services, and I have the amazing and very resilient Darren Gregory here to join us today. I'm really grateful that I get a chance to speak with you today, Darren, because I know that you have been on a journey of recovery, that you are really dedicated to raising awareness about post-traumatic stress, growth, and recovery for those people in emergency services, and you are speaking from something you know about very personally. And I wonder if you can help us to understand what your journey's been about, and also what has worked and what you're doing now.
Well, to start, the traumas that I experienced on the job came over a 16-year span, so it was a cumulative issue for me.
It's accumulated trauma, right? So that makes perfect sense. It kind of starts to deplete you over time.
And the traumas tend for me to layer one on top of the other because I didn't resolve them as I went along.
You know, I've heard this from many emergency responders because a large portion of my practice is actually military, paramilitary, emergency responders, policing. So you've just said something that is very, it's a really huge issue, because you, as an emergency responder, you were exposed to many things over the course of your career. It wasn't the first one that led you to feel like you couldn't do your work anymore.
Actually, I had to push myself through the rest of my work after the first one.
Is that right?
If I had listened to my soul, I think I might have pulled back and started over at that point, to be honest.
If you listened to your soul.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was an overwhelming event, and it shook me right to my core. And from there on, like I said, the rest just layered on top of that, because we didn't have an avenue even to address trauma on the job at that point. That was in 1989.
In 1989, you experienced an event that was so riveting to you that, and you didn't have a way of processing it. So what did you do instead of processing it? You said you pushed yourself through, but what else did you do?
You know, I did try the dark humor defense, and I did listen to my mentors who said, you have to file this stuff away. You can't let this carry on. You have to more or less try to forget that it even happened. There was no introduction to psychologists, or even to I think we had a chaplain at the time, but that wasn't even offered at the time. And I honestly felt like, because I was reacting the way I was, that was abnormal for me. Because the partner that I was with on the call, of course, didn't react that way. Mm-hmm. Some years had gone by, and he since told me, yeah, he did respond, but he just didn't let on that he did.
Oh, so he was hiding.
And that was the dilemma all along. People would suffer those things and pretend they didn't exist. And that left, the more sensitive types, I think, like myself, kind of in a lurch. We didn't know who to turn to, and there was absolutely no avenue to proceed down a road to recovery from any of those events that I experienced.
I've been doing trauma work for a long time, Darren, and I've heard kind of these pivotal, like you call it, a soul-altering event. Yeah. And I know when that doesn't get addressed, the wound can be hard to to work through years later. What happened to get you to a place where you had no choice but to actually step back and do the work you needed to do to get to the place you are now? Because I know you're in a different place now.
Yeah, it was a real kind of twisted thing. I was doing two jobs at the time. I was doing a part-time ambulance thing on top of a social work, not social worker, but working with persons with mental disabilities. And as the years went on, it was somewhere around 1994 where I started to realize I was having trouble, mm-hmm. but didn't know what to do with it. And I did try spiritual counseling at that point through a local church, and I did see somebody locally at one point. who was trying to teach me thought stopping and some things like that that just didn't register with me at all. And as things kind of deteriorated in the family and the workload of both jobs seemed too much, and I still had it in my head that I wanted to be a full-time advanced life support paramedic. And there was a stepping stone to Vancouver from where I live in central BC, or southern BC. Anyway, it was in 2005 finally, where it wasn't even a call that I attended to, but it was a local nurse. She was a friend, and she was struck as a pedestrian in a crosswalk. And for whatever reason, I wanted to know what happened to her, and I reached out to the crew to find out. And they told me the story, and this was just prior to Christmas. And from that point in late 2004, 2005, it was, by the time February rolled around, I wasn't functioning anymore at all. I was completely broken psychologically. There was nothing left, no defenses left.
What did you do to get to the place you're at now? How did you recover?
Well, it was lots of pushing and shoving and battling with compensation system for far too long. And I took it upon myself to change compensation law and allowed my case to go forward in Human Rights Tribunal. So there were a lot of years of battling that only...
Was that part of your recovery?
It only served to re-injure me and re-injure me and re-injure me, unfortunately.
So what was part of the real recovery? What were the pieces that helped you say, now I'm starting to grow, now I'm starting to change, now I feel more of my soul is intact?
What happened this went on until 2013, and I tried to work and failed a couple of times, and then reached out to an employment service locally. They were a little flush with money. They had money for therapy that I hadn't had access to prior. So they sent me for EMDR in Vancouver. And that therapeutic process broke. It felt like the trauma broke through. That in combination with trauma release exercise, Dr. Bricelli's work. And from there on, I did my community workplace traumatology course.
With the Traumatology Institute, yeah.
And the education from that filled in a whole bunch of missing pieces and gaps so that I was able to better understand what had happened to me. And then study from there.
What was it about that education piece that kind of shifted you to a new place?
It normalized it for me. It made it real. It made it, there was someone like you out there who said, no, this really happened to you. This is real. Mm-hmm. The symptomatology that was presented in the course, the whole prognosis, sort of the steps of how it develops and how it plays out. It kind of I was able to relate to just about everything that I took in.
And these were. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
It helped me make sense that it was a real. It was a serious condition to be contending with.
Yeah.
And I wasn't weak. And it
yes.
was just right.
This was a real thing that happened to you. And now you're doing this amazing work. You have your own blog. You have your own website. You're making a difference. You're raising awareness about the issues. I want to recap what we've covered so far for people who are listening. First of all, this is Darren Gregory, and he has gone through his own trajectory of healing over a number of years, from very early on in his career, where he had a soul wounding that was so deep that he had to layer it over and over again for years just to survive his workplace. Then he was able to get to a place where he realized that he just could not continue anymore, that it was too devastating, and that life was now presenting him with a pivotal life choice. I think we all have these choice points in life, and you decided in that choice point to start to fight for your rights, to get therapy. You used EMDR and trauma release, and you educated yourself, and in this case you completed the community and workplace traumatologist program so that you could better understand what was really happening and understand fully that this was not your fault and that you're now going to take the road towards recovery. And you committed to that. I just want to thank you so much for talking with me about all of this, Darren. I think it is so remarkable what you're doing, and I'm so happy that you're involved in raising awareness about post-traumatic growth and recovery.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Darren. And just for everybody, make sure that if these videos are helpful for you, that you share and you like, and that you help other people grow towards their own post-traumatic growth and recovery. This is Dr. Anna Baranowsky.
For more Ask Dr. Anna videos and information about post-traumatic growth and recovery, subscribe and like our YouTube videos at What is PTSD, or join us at previous video episodes in our playlist Ask Dr. Anna from the Traumatology Institute team.